Okay, good morning. Let's go through our study guide for tomorrow's assessment. Okay, so this assessment is going to be covering division. Our mid-mission assessment covered all of the addition, subtraction, and multiplication, and now we are sticking with the division. So we're going to go ahead and start out with a problem where you don't actually have to do any computation, but you do have to show you that you understand the process for long division. So it says Steve is using long division to find 513 divided by 3. He starts by dividing 5 by 3. Why would he do that? Because, there we go. We've got our divisor of 3. We're going to go ahead and take the first digit of our dividend. In which place should Steve place the first digit of the quotient? Well, you better know what a quotient is, right? The answer to your division problem. So, when he sees how many groups of 3 there are in 5, which is 1, there's one group of 3 and 5, where does he put that digit 1 in the quotient? In what place is he going to put it? Well, this 1 represents one group of hundreds, right? This 5 represents 5 groups of hundreds, so that would be like $500 bills laid out in front of you, right? And this 3 says put 3 of them into a group. How many times can you do that? Well, I can do that one time, so that's one group of $100 bills. So that needs to go above the hundreds place. So your answer for number 1 for your study guide is hundreds. Make sure that you pay attention to what value or what place value position you are grouping. If I was seeing how many groups of tens, right? If I was saying that there are 51 tens, and I had 51 $10 bills laid out in front of me and I had to put those into groups, I would put however many groups of tens I made in above the tens place, but these are hundreds. All right, number 2. Julie's calculation of 7,756 divided by 7 is shown here. Here meaning over here. Identify Julie's first mistake when solving the problem. So the first thing we got to do is go through Julie's steps, right? Okay, so she's got her dividend, she's got her divisor, she went to the greatest place value position, she can make groups of thousands. So how many can she make? She can make 1, right? She's got 7 thousands, she can put 7 in a group, that's one group of thousands. There it is, all right? 1 times 7 is 7. Subtract 7 from 7, you get 0. Bring down. Repeat. All right, so now again, we're looking at 7 hundreds this time, 7 groups. How many hundreds can I put into a group of 7? I can do one group. So there it is again, one group. So 1 times 7 is 7. Subtract, gets you 0. Bring down. Okay, she brought down a 5. So we are now looking at 5 tens. If I put 5 $10 bills out in front of you, how many groups of 7 can you make? Right? If you have $5 $10 bills in your pocket, how many people can you give 7 $10 bills to? None. Well, what did she do? She's got an 8 here. Why? Because she didn't make any groups, and she didn't record that she didn't make any groups. She has to record that she made 0 groups. She said that she used 0 of those and subtracted the 5 and brought down her 6, leaving her with 56 ones. If you have $56 in your pocket, how many people can you give $7 to? 8. But she put her 8 above the tens place, even though this is 56 ones, right? And then she just filled in the last spot with a 0. So Julie's first mistake, Julie put an 8 in the tens place instead of the 0 placeholder that shows 0 groups of tens. Okay, doesn't have to be those exact words, but something to the effect to explain that she needed to put a 0 in the tens place because she was not able to make any groups out of those 5 tens. And now we need to do it correctly. So use your space wisely. 7,756 divided by 7. We go to the first place. She's able to make one group. Multiply gives you 7. Subtract gives you 0. Bring down the 7. 7, you make one group. 1 times 7 is 7. Subtract 0. Bring down the 5. Okay, so we've got 5 groups of 10. If you got 5 $10 bills in your pocket, how many people can you give 7 $10 bills to? 0. Nobody. You cannot. So you made zeros. 0 times 7 is 0. You used 0 of those $10 bills. Bring down your 6. Now we're looking at 56 ones, right? We unbundled the 5 to join the ones. Now we have 56 ones. What times 7 is 56? Or how many groups of 7 are in 56? There are 8. 8 times 7 is 56. Subtract. We've got our beautiful zeros at the bottom and nothing left to bring down. Therefore, our answer is 1,108. Okay? So you need to explain and you need to work out the problem correctly in order to get your full points. Okay, number 3. 3 students set up a lemonade stand. At the end of the day, their profit was $10.68. How much money do they each have when they split up equally? All right. Well, there are 3 students, right? Hello, students. There you are. And there is $10.68 that needs to be split equally among them. So we need to write an equation. We have to figure out what is our dividend and what is our divisor. When we're writing an equation, our dividend always goes first. We always start with our total group, our total amount that we have, and then we put our divisor, which is going to represent how many groups we're making or how much is going into each group. It just depends on the situation. In this case, we have 3 groups. We don't know how much is going into each group, but we know there needs to be 3 groups. The total amount that we have is the $10.68. So 10 68 hundredths is going to be our dividend going into 3 groups. Okay? Then it says solve the equation, show your reasoning. So over here I'm going to go ahead and set up my problem. I've got 10 68 hundredths divided by 3. Okay, can I make any groups of 3 with one $10 bill? No. So I go ahead and I unbundle that into 10 ones. So I've got 10 ones. If I have 10 $1 bills in my pocket, how many people can I give $3 to? 3. 3 times 3 is 9. Subtract gives me 1. All right. Now, before I move on, because I see I'm going over the decimal point here to bring down, I'm going to go ahead and bring up my decimal point too. That way I know that I've got my decimal point in the correct place. Okay, before I jump over this decimal point in order to bring down that 6, I'm going to bring that decimal point up. Right, and then I'm going to bring down my 6. All right, 16. I've unbundled this $1 bill that was left over and joined it with my 6 tens. That's like dimes. So now I have like 16 dimes in my hand or in my pocket. I'm going to hand those out. How many people could I give 3 dimes to if I had 16 in my pocket? Well, I can go ahead and put 5 in each group. 5 times 3 is 15. Subtract, leave me with 1. Bring down. I've got 18. I had 1 dime left, or 1/10. I unbundled it into pennies, or hundredths. Now I've got 18 pennies. And how many people could I give 3 pennies to? I can give those to 6 people, because 6 times 3 is 18. I subtract. I get my beautiful zeros at the bottom and nothing to bring down. Therefore, my answer is $3.56 per person. All right, let's go ahead and flip it over. All right. Marvin has a piece of ribbon that is 5 75 hundredths meters long. He wants to cut it into pieces that are 5/10 meters long. how many pieces of ribbon will he have? So he's got a big old long piece of ribbon, right? That is 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 75 hundredths meters long. And he wants to cut all of that into 0.5 or 5/10 or half meter lengths. How many pieces of ribbon will he have? So we need to write an equation, right? The whole thing, the whole ribbon that Marvin has is 5 and 75 hundredths meters. That's the whole thing. What he wants to do is cut it into 0.5 or 5/10 or half meter lengths, but we don't know how many of those he'll be able to make, right? So that means that our dividend, which always goes first, is going to be the 5.75 or 5 and 75 hundredths, and our divisor is going to be the 5/10. All right, now I have to solve and show my reasoning. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to put my divisor and my dividend. Okay, now we ask ourselves, this is a big question that we must ask ourselves when we are working with decimals. Is our divisor, this guy here outside the box, is our divisor a whole number? No, that's not. This right here, this represents a half, right? That's not a whole. So I've got to move this decimal point over so that this 0.5 or this 5/10 turns into 5 wholes. Well, anytime I do that on the outside of my division box, I also have to do it on the inside of my division box, okay? So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to rewrite this problem just so that it doesn't get confusing. So I now have 5 divided by 57 and 5/10, okay, because I moved my decimal point both inside and outside of my division bracket. Now I can divide. All right, 5 goes into 5 one time. 1 times 5 is 5. Gives me 0. Bring down my 7. I can make one group of 5 if I have 7 of something. Oops, I almost put a 5 there. 1 times 5 is 5. Bring down, or subtract, I get a 2. Bring down that 5. Ooh, before I bring down, I'm going to bring up because I crossed over the my little division marking. I passed over the dot, so I'm going to go ahead and bring up my decimal point to make sure that I put that in my answer and I don't forget about it. Bring down my 5. All right, I've got 25. How many times does 5 go into 25? It goes in 5 times. 5 times 5 is 25. I get zeros, beautiful zeros at the bottom, nothing to bring down. That means that my answer is 11 and 5/10. Okay, so that means Marvin would be able to make 11 and a half sections of ribbon that are 5/10 meters long. Okay, the rest of your test is all computation. Okay, these are just computation problems. So if you feel that this space here that is provided for you is not enough space, you can always turn your paper sideways, okay? Because then if you were to draw a line down the middle here, you have a longer area to work your problem out than if your paper is this way, okay? So if you would like to turn your paper this way while you work out your problems, then you might feel like you have enough space. So we're going to be doing 3,185 divided by 13. 3,185 divided by 13. And I've told you guys lots of times that if you feel that your brain gets bogged down while you are working out these problems because you don't know how many times 13 can go into something, write down your facts. Now, you're like, oh, I don't know my 13 facts. I bet you do. It's just repeated addition, right? So on your scratch paper or on your whiteboard, you can go ahead, and I'm just going to use this space over here just to show you. You can write down those 13 facts because, oops, whatever fact it is, right? If it's 2 times 13, 3 times 13, this number here in the first column, that represents how many groups and then the product represents the dividend that you're working with. Right, so 1 times 13 is 13. 2 times 13, if you're not sure, well, 13 plus 10 is 23, plus 3 more is 26, right? You're just going to go through and you are going to repeatedly add together 13 to each group over and over again. So you're going to go ahead and you could write these down, and by taking, it really shouldn't take you too much more than maybe 1, maybe 2 minutes to write down your facts for something that you might be struggling with. And now I'm not going to have to think while I work this out. Okay, so I'm going to say, how many times can 13 go into 3? It can't, so I'm going to go ahead and unbundle this 3 into these hundreds, and now I've got 31 hundreds. Okay, how many times can 13 go into 31? I just go, how close can I get to 31 without going over? Oh, only 2 times. So that means 2 groups, making sure that I'm putting it over the hundreds place. 2 times 13, I don't even have to think about that because I've already got it written down, 26. Subtract. Right, the difference between 26 and 31. Well, it takes me 4 to get from 26 to 30, plus 1 more to get to 31. So that means I'm going to have 5. Bring down my 8. Now I've got 58. So I go over here. How close can I get to 58 without going over? Oh, 4 times. 4 times 13. 4 times 13 is 52. Subtract. The difference between 52 and 58 is 6. Bring down. Alright, how close can I get to 65 without going over? Oh, I can get exactly to 65 if I go 5 times. 5 times 13, it says right here, is 65. 0, 0, and nothing to bring down. I'm done. Make sure that I write my answer on the line, 245. Okay? I can also check my work by taking 245, multiplying it by 13, right? I take my quotient and my divisor, I multiply them. 3 times 5 is 15, regroup. 3 times 4 is 12, plus 1 is 13, regroup. 3 times 2 is 6, plus 1 is 7, placeholder. 1 times, and I'm going to cross these out because I've used them. 1 times 5 is 5, 1 times 4 is 4, 1 times 2 is 2. Add those together. 5, 8, 7 plus 4, well 7 plus 6 is 10, so 4 plus 7 must be, did I just say that right? 4 plus 6 is 10, so 4 plus 7 must be 11, regroup. 2 plus 1 is 3, I get 3,185, my original dividend was 3,185, that means I did it correctly. Okay, so you're going to go through and solve all of these. Alright, so then going over to the next one here. I can see right here that my divisor is not a whole number. So I know I'm going to need to move that over, making this just a 4, which means that I'm going to have to move this over too, which means I'm going to have to make this into 740. Okay, so 740 divided by 4. If you don't know your 4 facts, you can go ahead and write them down in order to help you solve this. Okay, 4 can go into 7 1 times. 1 times 4 is 7. Subtract. That gives me 3. Bring down my 4. 34 now is what I'm working with. That can go in 8 times. 8 times 4 is 32. Subtract. That gives me 2. Bring down that 0. 4 can go into 20 5 times. 5 times 4 is 20. Subtract. Gives me 0 zeros, nothing to bring down. That means my answer is 185. Again, I can multiply 185 times 4 as long as I get 740. I know that I've done my work correctly. Okay? Alright, I want you to pause the video and I want you to work out the next one on your own before checking your answer to see if it is correct. Alright, so for this next one, I see that let's go ahead and look at it before I flip my paper. I see that my divisor is a whole number, so I don't need to do any decimal point movements. Okay, I'm just good to go in setting this up. So hopefully you just kept your divisor the same, and you put your 3 and 679 thousandths in there. You could right now bring that decimal point up if you want to, or you could do it when you're jumping over the decimal point to bring down that 6. But 2 can go into 3 one time. 1 times 2 is 2. Subtract gives you 1. You bring down your 6. 2 can go into 16 8 times. 8 times 2 is 16, which gives you 0. I have a 0 here. Does that mean I'm done? No, because you still have more things that you need to bring down. Okay? 2 can go into 7 3 times, because 3 times 2 is 6, which is as close as you can get without going over. And then we bring down that 9. 2 can go into 19. How many times? It can go in 9 times, because 9 times 2 is 18. Uh-oh, I've got nothing to bring down, and I don't have a 0. So what do? I'm going to go ahead and add a placeholder, right? And I'm going to bring that down. And what I'm doing is I'm unbundling this 1 into 10 groups of the smaller place value position next to it, okay? Now 2 goes into 10 5 times. 5 times 2 is 10. Subtract. Now I've got my double zeros and nothing to bring down. All right, pause the video before you move on to the next one. I want you to solve number 8 on your own, and then check your work with the video. All right, I'm looking at my divisor, and I see that it is not a whole number. That means I'm going to have to bring this baby over 2 times in order to turn my 24 hundredths into just 24, which means that I've got to bring this baby over 2 times as well, right? So now I've got 7,224 as my dividend. So now I can go ahead and I can set that up. I've got 7,224 in the box, and I've got 24 out of the box. So again, you can take a minute and just write down those 24 facts. You can also just set them all up, like the 1 times 24, 2 times 24, 3 times 24, and just answer them as you need them to. But it gives you somewhere to kind of organize your thoughts as you're working, right? So I might start with 1 times 24, 2 times 24, 3 times 24, but I may not go through them all, and I may just use this as a place to kind of organize, sorry you can't see that, organize my thoughts as I'm going, okay? So let's go ahead and start out. So 24 goes into 7 no times, so I need to do 24 into 72, right? Now if you like to record that there were no groups there, and before moving on, that's fine, because it's not going to change your answer with that 0 there. But I need to see how many times 4 can go into 72, 24 can go into 72. So let's go ahead. I'm going to start seeing what some of these facts are. Ooh, 72. So that's as close as I can get without going over. So that means that's 3 groups. 3 times 24, I just figured out, is 72. So then I'm going to go ahead and get 0, and I'm going to bring down a 2. I have 2 10s. How many groups of 24 can I make if I only have 2? None. And I have to put that 0 placeholder now. Okay? Once it's in your number, you have to put the 0 placeholder. 0 times 24 is 0, which gives me 2. Bring down that 4. Oh, 24 into 24. Nice. Easy, right? 1 times 24 is 24. Subtract 0. Okay? Make sure that you write your answer. Oh, I didn't do that for this one. 1, 8, 3, 9, 5. Awesome. Make sure that you're writing your answer on the line there for us, please, so that we can see what your answers are. Okay, last one. All right, so pause the video while you work out number 9, and then we will work it out together. Okay, so when I look at number 9, I can see that this is not a whole number. My divisor is not a whole number, so I'm going to have to move that over to make this into 32, which means I'm going to have to move this over 1 time, right? Because if I moved it once here, I move it once here, So I've got 572.8, or 572 and 8/10. 572 and 8/10 divided by 32. Just like with our 24s, you can write down those 32 facts if you need to, but again, feel free to only write them, let me make this so you can see this. Make sure to only write them down as far as you need them, especially when they're such big numbers, because that's kind of time consuming. But I do need to see how many times 32 can go into 57, right? Because I can't go into 5, so I'm going to grab the 57. So I might see 1 times 32 is 32, 2 times 32 is 64. Oh, well, that's already too far, so I can't even go in twice, right? So it goes in 1 time. Make sure that you're putting the 1 above that tens place, because these are 57 tens. 1 times 32 is 32. Subtract. Alright, gives me 5 and 2. So then I'm going to have a big number because I've got a double digit here and I'm going to bring down, right? So now I need to see how many times 32 can go into 252. So I might say, you know what, I bet that this is going to be quite a ways down before I get to my correct number. So I'm going to use some of my number sense. I'm going to use some reasoning here to see where I need to go to. So let's see. Where do I think? Oops, that's a 7. Where do I think? How far down my facts do you think I'm going to have to get to close to 252 without going over? Whew, because that's a pretty big one, right? So let's see. I'm going to go ahead and try 5, right? So 5 times 32. If I do 5 times 30, that's going to give me 150, and then 5 times 2 is 10, so that means that that's going to give me 160. Right, so that's not far enough yet, is it? So I need to go farther. Maybe I'll jump down to 7. 7 times 3, right, or would give me 21, so that's 210. 7 times 2 is 14, so 210 plus 14 is going to give me 224. 224, that's pretty close. Could I go to 8? Let's just see. 32 more, well, that would still be in the 200. 3 more would be 5, 2 more would be 6. Okay, so now I'm at 256. So 8's too much, 7 is, so I can make 7 groups. And I just figured out that 7 times 32 is 224. So I go ahead and I subtract. I'm going to have to do some regrouping. 4, 12. 4 from 12 gives me 8. 2 from 4 gives me 2, and then I've got 0, and I bring down my 8. Alright, I'm at a 3-digit number again, and I didn't go far enough, so you know what, I bet it's going to be 9. Let's see. If I add my that 3 of 32 to the 5, I'm not adding any hundreds, it's going to give me 8, and then I'm going to add 2 more. Oh, look at that, beautiful. So that's going to be 9 groups there. 9 times 32, I just figured out, is 288, which gives me zeros. I am done. That means that my answer is 179. Okay? So make sure that you're working out these problems. You can turn your paper sideways to help you work them out. And make sure that you have gone through your whole study guide so that you are prepared for tomorrow's assessment.